Okay, welcome back, and thanks for watching episode 4 of this show. It is Monday, January 5th, and I'm still sick. I thought I would feel better over the weekend, but I actually feel pretty much exactly the same, and I feel like the weekend didn't even happen at all. I feel like I just slept through it, and it went by really fast. So I don't know. It's a dual start to the year where I'm happy that I'm doing this and it feels like this is headed in a good direction. But at the same time, I like my body just feels like it's made out of glass. So it it's good and it's bad. I look forward to feeling better and getting to really prepare a little bit better for these and feel like I can also have my voice back, because my voice still just doesn't feel quite right. It feels just feels messed up. But yeah, so this is the first Monday of this show, and they're Friday night after I streamed Friday night, and I probably ended around 11 p.m. and I stayed up very late. I've just been staying up until I've been staying up till like 4 a.m. and sleeping till 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. or so. And maybe that is why I'm still sick. I'm sleeping a lot. I'm just not sleeping at a normal time. But anyway, when I was awake, I saw the first videos of the strikes on Venezuela as they were happening. And that was an interesting experience. So that is one of the things that I want to talk about. Actually, that's kind of both of the things that I want to talk about today, because I would like to share some of what I've been thinking about the Venezuela event, but even more so about some of the reactions I've seen to the Venezuela event. And I was not really online this weekend very much, actually, so I didn't see a whole lot of response, but it did make me want to comment on our understanding of world events, and I don't know, just how I feel about them. And the other side of today's episode is I wanted to talk about executive functioning, so sort of related to my sleep, my current, I don't know. I wouldn't call it dysfunctional sleep, but it's abnormal sleep, and I'm definitely like wasting a bunch of time at night. Excuse me. And I don't know. I want to talk about this experience of feeling like you aren't able to do the things that you want to do, and like you are addicted to doing a bunch of things that you don't want to be doing. So wasting time and prioritizing and not procrastinating and actually getting things done. So that'll be the two sides of this. I guess maybe that might turn out to be a lot. I don't think I'll really have that much to say about the Venezuela related stuff, but we'll see. So maybe I'll only get to one of those, because I'm trying to resolve tonight to not stay up until 4, and hopefully once I finish the show I can just tell myself to the only thing there is for me to do is to go to bed, and then I can wake up at a more normal time and try to accomplish some of the very like obvious objectives that I have for myself, things related to the show, things related to reading and research. But I find myself, despite having all of these things they're like right at the tips of my fingers. Like I have all the books, I have the desk, I can do the reading, but there's reasons that I'm not getting to it. And I think that's going to be an interesting conversation. So first of all, I listened to a lot of CDs in my car and in a radio, like a little radio CD player thing that I have. And I was listening to this Mormon Tabernacle Choir CD where they're singing a bunch of, I think it's titled Songs from America's Heartland. So I think that's the title. I can't seem to find the case. Otherwise, it would be kind of helpful to reference here. But yeah, I think it's Songs from America's Heartland, and it starts off with like When the Saints Go Marching In, which is a song I never listened to very closely. It's something I feel like we would just play in band in grade school, maybe. Like it's a song that's always been familiar, but some of the lyrics to it are crazy because it's about like Judgment Day or the Second Coming, and it's so it's like, and when the saints go marching in, to the same cadence of that, it'll be like, and when the moon, and when the moon, and when the moon, it turns to blood, something like that, and it's and when the sun it ceases to shine, things like that. Didn't realize. I mean, it makes sense, but I never associate that with that song. Anyway, though, there's another song. This will relate to Venezuela, but before I get to the song I actually wanted to talk about, there's there was another song on there. It's just a rendition of Down by the Riverside, which I think was a slave spiritual to begin with. I'm going to lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm going to lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, and I ain't going to study war no more. And I really liked their rendition of this song, and I'd never really closely listened to this song either. It's been nice listening to that CD because there's a lot of like familiar tunes, but I've never closely listened, and they're very talented singers. So there's a lot of depth in, I don't know, there's a lot of sonic depth and a lot of different things happening with the voices. So I've been kind of appreciating choral music for the first time in my life. And anyway, so I was like, I really love this song, but we are going to study war. I was just like, this is kind of the opposite of how I have been feeling for a long time. Cause I'm just like, we're going to study war. We're going to read Sun Tzu, Clausewitz. We're going to learn the history of U.S. Special Forces, Delta Force. You just need to know like where these things are coming from all the way back, strategically speaking. And then from the current day to understand things such as like who exactly, like there is a man who handcuffed Maduro, and there's a man who threw him on the helicopter. Like there's specific individuals that walk amongst us that do all of these things, and they go through specific trainings, and these programs were put in place over decades through various administrations and changed over the course of those administrations. And I think that's all important to try to understand if you want to make sense of this world, because this world is like we're not in a like end of history Francis Fukuyama situation. Like it's not like we're in another Cold War basically, between the US and China, and the arms race would be AI. But so I'm just trying to say there's concrete hard power in the world that is actually like killing and kidnapping people, and it's important to try to get a handle on like how the hell does this even work, like logistically, command wise. It like yeah, I guess those are the two things that stick out the most, but both of those are understood through understanding the history of those programs and of those units of soldiers. So great song, but we are studying war, and that brings me to the other song. So another song on there, it's traditionally rendered, so I assumed it was like relatively contemporary to the War of 1812, but it turns out it's actually, I looked it up just like right before the stream because I was like, I shouldn't talk about this without knowing where it comes from, and it comes from somewhere totally not what I was expecting. So it sort of changes the slant that I was going to bring to this conversation. But the song is "The Battle of New Orleans," referring to the final battle of the War of 1812 between the U.S. and the British Empire. And yeah, so I thought, I mean, the song is very well rendered on the Mormon Tabernacle Choir album. Seems period accurate. They even changed bloody British to blooming British or something, which I thought was a funny expletive. So this song, it's like, it's kind of silly, and it I guess it makes sense. So I was listening to this song for the first time after, like, the day after the Venezuela special operation. I don't know what you would even call it, because it's kind of it's not really a coup yet. I mean, I haven't paid attention to it in like a couple days. I kind of just paid attention to the initial operation, and then like a little bit of like some of Trump's statements about it, but I didn't. So I might be totally out of date. In the future, if I'm talking about current events, I'll try to be more up on it, but I've just been sick. So I've just been feverishly reflecting on the Battle of 1812 country song and the Venezuela special operation to kidnap Maduro and bring him to New York City. So bear in mind that that's where this is really coming from. I haven't been studying. So, and there's a handful of things I want to talk about with respect to that. Really, the main thing about listening to that song. So I don't know if I explained it. Yeah. It was like a country song from, I don't know, the 30s or something, maybe even the 50s, that I guess just caught on, and then they decided to make a version of it that sounded like it was like a traditional American song. And anyway, so it's just sort of a silly rendition. Like, it's sort of, let me see if I have the lyrics, but it's like, we fired our guns and the British kept a coming. There weren't as many as there was a while ago. We fired our guns and the British started running down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico, something like that. And so yeah, silly. It's just like a prideful, jovial, like, yeah, we kicked their British asses in New Orleans type of song. And it that paints, most of my audience isn't going to be in this position, but I assume maybe they have family members on the side, and I don't know, but it made me think about the sort of pride in unjust wars situation, because in the case of the War of 1812, I think it was started by President Madison, and it was an unnecessary war. Again, this is something I should brush up on before speaking about, but off the top of my head, it is like, it was a war that should have never happened, and this battle specifically really should have never happened, because the peace treaty was signed before this battle, but the news couldn't get from, I don't know if it was signed in England or what, but it couldn't get to New Orleans before the battle. So it was maybe like the bloodiest battle of the war, and it was an unnecessary battle, even just in terms of like the war's own logic. So, but it was sort of I don't want to speak on the causes because I should really review it, but if you look into the causes of this war and the proponents and the people who were against it, I recall when I was reading about it, really really preferring the side of the people who were against it. It seemed like not much to gain, and the British didn't want a war. It was like a war of American aggression against the British. So anyway, so it made me think. I was thinking this song was written, in the mid 1800s or something, and it was just like a goofy soldier song. And I was like, wow, so yeah, it's just a way of co-opting people's pride in what was, like, on a sense, an event that you can have some pride in, because war has always been a part of life since civilization has come to pass. So there is, like, we need to find ways to understand war in our conception of the world. And you can understand someone, you know, or people who were affected by the Battle of New Orleans on the American side, sort of like finding a catharsis through dumbing it down and having that song to sing that glosses over all the actual horrors of the battle on both sides. And that just made me think about, I haven't seen any of this, but I have to assume that it's out there. Actually, I like looked briefly at Twitter and saw a little bit of some people being prideful about the special operation. And again, there is something like in terms of like thinking, like we're not in a global peace situation. Like there are people and powers in the world vying for domination of the globe. Like people do want to have their nation be like the hegemon of the globe. And that is like how a lot of national planners, national strategists do think. They think about, you know, this century as a century. They think about where do we want to be at the end of the century. And so you do need to bring a little bit of a realism to that. And then some people see just like the total technical insanity of something like kidnapping Venezuela's president. Not to laugh, but it is there's a technical, I don't know what else to call it. It's just like insane what militaries are capable of at this point. Yeah. Anyway, and just a side tangent too. There's also the possibility that this was an agreement that was come to in the past. I mean, maybe we will have closure on that at some point. Maybe we will never have closure on that, but you never know, especially right away. I don't like to pass judgment on what has occurred when it has just occurred. I would prefer to wait and see how things play out, because it seems to me very possible that Maduro, because they've been like pushing for this for a very long time at this point, for months. Like they've been building up like an insane level of military, what's the word? I don't know. They've been building up a military presence close to Venezuela, clearly, obviously related to like an attack on Venezuela, presumably boots on the ground in Venezuela. That pressure has been visible for some time. There's videos of Maduro calling for peace and at rallies and saying like, I don't know. This has been a dialogue. It has been obvious to those who could look to see it that this, I mean, the way that like Rubio or Trump they openly talk about wanting regime change in Venezuela, or they used to. And anyway, so that's a little bit of a tangent where it's also like, you know, we can't pretend that we even really have a sense of what's going on. And to add a tangent to a tangent, I say that because I assume me and my average viewer are not really privy to very many specific details as to these two administrations in these two nations. So it's not to say that no one could ever know. It's also not to say that no layperson could ever know. I think if you really research this, you can understand it with more depth than I have, certainly. But, you know, that's just not where most of us are operating. And yet we are thrust into a dialogue on the events without that expertise. And that's something that I wanted to warn about in here, because we are all pulled into it immediately. You have a perspective, you have an opinion on what has occurred, and it's very shocking. I don't know if you saw the videos. I mean, it was like it's just like, I don't know. I mean, nothing like this has really happened before. To this extent, it seems novel in certain ways to me. And so So we're caught off guard, and we are also urged to have an opinion. Lots of people immediately start posting opinions, and this is something I kind of want to warn against, because like I said last week, like a big priority of this show is to develop an increasingly sharp and sober analysis of the situation we find ourselves in, and that's local, it's national, it's global, it's spiritual, it's psychological, it's interpersonal. So there's so many layers to our current experiences, and I want to be pushing for understanding, pushing for a sense making in the midst of all this stuff. So when these shootings happen, I kind of like, I mean, personally, I would like to I have like personal strategic goals in my life where I want to be able to weather the storm of the circumstances of this world over the course of my life. That's what I want. And so in a way, when these things happen, like, I barely want to look up from my book. And it's not that I want to be detached from these things. It's like I want to be on this road to making sense and helping other people make sense, and also building communities of people that are willing to prioritize a search for the truth and a search for power in our own lives, instead of just being disempowered, expropriated from. All right. And that reminds me of, just to switch to the book cam real quick, it reminds me of an icon painting. I think it's, I shouldn't get, I moved the mic. I'm kind of not used to it yet. But if there's not a lot of ambient noise, I don't actually need this really close to my face. Sometimes this building does get really loud, so I'll have to do that, but it's a quiet night, so. Let's see if I can get a decent shot of this. Okay. You know, it's not perfect. Eventually, I would like to have some sort of a reliable stand for looking at images of books, because I have so much stuff like that in the studio. So this is, I believe this is St. Luke writing the gospel. And in the background is, I wish I could show the whole thing at once. But the first time I saw this, it was very striking to me, because I was like, that is how I'm trying to be, basically. And I didn't know who this was or what he was writing when I saw it. But just like, it feels like there's such a contrast between him and the world here, where it's like, that is just the fallen world that we're in. But you can commit yourself to something that really transcends and that affects that world. And I don't know, that it just I find it a striking image. And that is 16th century Novgorod icon museum. I don't know, it doesn't seem to say, maybe they don't know who did this one, but St. Luke the Evangelist. Okay, so with that said, let me take a look at my notes here. Yeah, I guess I kind of just want to draw a line at having a very sudden outrage at things like this, when things like this are, this is the water we're swimming in, and it's like someone just kind of splashes you in the face, and you start feeling a whole new type of way. But we're in the water. We're in the like water of global violence. So there's just something like, when people start freaking out about it, and they may be, I don't know. And it's not to say that, like, I'm not judging people for having emotional reactions. Again, we have to think of this in the current technological situation that we're in, where our emotions and experiences are immediately mediated through our technology that is really implanting itself into our nervous system in certain ways. That's why it's immediate mediation. It's like, because it reconstitutes the manner in which you are thinking. So I don't know. And really what I have in mind here is just like lots of sort of virtue signally Instagram posts, I guess. Because I think that term, like that's a loaded term. I feel like it was really heavily associated with like the right in like 2014 or something, but like it is a useful thing because you just the concept of signaling where your virtues lie. And that's a lot of what is happening. That it's kind of become a defining characteristic of expressing our feelings through social media, is that it is the signaling of a virtue that will be picked up on in a proper way by the people you want to pick it up. So oh man. What else we got? Yeah, and I on that note, I think it is kind of important to not avoid talking about these things, but be careful casually talking about current events like this. Because if you are on this path where you want to understand this stuff, it's going to require work in a certain way, which also requires dialogue. I think it benefits a great deal from having people you agree or disagree with converse with you about these things. But there's always got to be I don't know, a clipboard that you're writing the stuff down on. Like if you let the water just pass under the bridge in the current mediascape that we live in, you're not going to be able to build anything for yourself. It's just going to pass. It's going to be another event that, what was even really up with that, you know? Or like, there's so many events where it's just kind of like, I mean, even 9/11, it's like, most people are content to just be like, yeah, what was even really up with that? And then it's like, it's just like a dumb conversation for 20 minutes at the bar, perhaps. And then it's wrapped up again, and nobody feels confident getting up there and giving their perspective on an event, even something so significant, and the timeline is so close to us. Like I know plenty of people were born after 9/11 who may be watching this, but like, still, you're born pretty close to 9/11. Anyway, let's see here. Okay, so there's one more little thing I'll talk about with this Venezuela stuff, and then we can move along. So I guess I want to connect this to the Patrick Henry speech that I read last week. It's the if you want to look it up, it's the address to the Virginia Convention, where he says, "Give me liberty or give me death." And he talks about the coming slavery that will affect all of them if they are not strong in this moment. If they are hopeful and don't see what is there to be seen, then they will become slaves to the British. So, anyway, so the thing I wanted to tie in with that about this Venezuela situation and about the situation we find ourselves in is Patrick Henry, I believe, was an anti-federalist, and he, like, this is before the Declaration of Independence is even signed. It is, I think people have, I don't want this to turn into like a huge thing about the founding fathers, but there is like in any revolutionary movement, a bunch of people are working together for one goal that they have in common, and then all of their other more minor goals may be drastically different. So I was talking about the Patrick Henry speech with a friend who is a Federalist, more like a Federalist, and he brought up that Patrick Henry was an anti-Federalist, and he wasn't being dismissive of it, but he was just pointing it out because we've been talking a lot about the Federalists like Hamilton. And so, like, it just brought us to this discussion of that concept of like, well, if you really want to create your revolution, so to speak, or like see a certain political goal through, you are going to have to ally with like either the, you know, like powerful or resourceful or strategic or intelligent people on the other side, like people you actually really disagree with in terms of like how you would manage a separate country that is made up of the colonies. You may totally have different visions. However, all of that is predicated on separating yourself from the British Empire. And so you'll work together as if you are brothers. Like, and I don't say that like trivially, like you're literally like family, like working for something that you want to see in the world. So yeah, and that made me reflect on our own current situation, because the reason I read that Patrick Henry speech is I think it is very useful to take a look at in terms of psychological warfare and all of the unity of tech companies and military industrial complex and corporations and the US government and other nations that is convalescing into, like Patrick Henry talks about, wow, they've got a lot of warships off the coast all of a sudden. And our equivalent of that is like, wow, there's surveillance equipment everywhere, and they're sort of, and everyone's like becoming increasingly dumb through these normalized technological mediums that are super prevalent and super encouraged. Like the use of them is highly encouraged. So yeah, I see a parallel there where it's like we should probably assess the fact that we're being set up to like, we're not being set up to have any power over our own lives in the near future, to put it lightly. And I think the signs of that are pretty obvious through technological development and looking at the individuals who are leading these sorts of technological developments, or like Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, what's the I can picture him. He's just this other sweaty guy. Peter Thiel's a sweaty, like just like a weird, like clammy guy, but also the guy who runs OpenAI. I don't know. And anyway, it's just, so I want to draw this parallel with our own time, where it's like well, who should we be partnering with? And I think the people you have to partner with are the people who can assess accurately what is going on in the world, make good predictions about it, like are committed to the goal of like some sort of dignified human society, whatever that may be, and getting rid of the current ruling regime and the future ruling regimes that are taking place that are really, I don't know, evil. So anyway, yeah, because it's easy to ally with people you agree with, but like a lot of the people you agree with are not people you want to be in like a dangerous situation with necessarily. And I consider ourselves to be in a already dangerous, already violent, psychologically violent, even physically violent in certain ways situation. So yeah, I don't know. I'll wrap that for the Venezuela stuff. I just think people really take a step back, and if you want to understand what's going on, do the work, and if you don't, do some other work. Not everyone needs to research every little thing. We should have people that we can trust in our circle that research different things, and we can share that information and know that the trust is there. It's built over time with our friends. and we're working on something tangible. So that's what we've got for Venezuela. I'm going to talk a little bit about executive functioning, discipline, stuff like that. And then I'll probably wrap it up. So on this note, I said a little bit of this at the top of the show, but let me see here. So I'm like excited that I've been doing this show, and I'm glad that I have something structured that is related to the work I've been really wanting to share this stuff with people, but it's been difficult to figure out how, because I can write stuff and I can hand out pamphlets, but it's a hard and sort of lonely task. But mostly it's a difficult task. I don't know. It's a time consuming one, and it is hard to sustain that without much momentum. And related to the writing project and research project are all of the conversations that I have with people. I talk about this stuff with friends and strangers frequently. But there's something now that I'm discovering with the live stream, and I was hoping this would be the case, where to talk about this to some people almost nightly, it really moves. It just gets the gears turning so much faster than having maybe a couple really highly relevant conversations a week, and then I need to just be like grinding on my own with writing or parsing through things or reading. And I've always been a procrastinator, unfortunately, and there's something difficult. For a long time I've wanted to like impose some structure on my life where it's like something like this is my job, where it's like I can put everything into it. I'm my own boss, my own slave, and there's like an imposed discipline through having it be a like job structure. I've always been hoping for something like that, and sometimes I'll like change something up and I'm like, oh yeah, this could really be it. I remember last year, the first time I really started using ChatGPT was December 2024, so a little over a year ago, and I started using it because I just really needed new techniques for organization, because I had so much writing that I was really, and my life wasn't a mess in terms of like my stability mentally or otherwise, but it was a mess in terms of this being my like one goal, which is that I want to do this research and I want to turn it into something tangible. And in terms of that, it was just really intermittent that progress would be made, and it was not reliable. So I was like, I like started using ChatGPT and trying to discover new techniques for organization that could maybe finally help me impose some more discipline on the things that I really want. Because there's this idea that I think, like, I don't know, I assume we all have things that we like really want in life, and shouldn't it be the case that we are working towards those like every day or whenever we're awake? Like, doesn't it make sense to do that? That's what I would like to do, and yet I'm just like, I've got all these sticks in my spokes that are totally preventing progress somehow. So that's been a hurdle I've been struggling to overcome, is like, how can I be more disciplined and actually get this work done? And I think this is something that a lot of people are feeling. So I'm kind of just talking it out here because there's been new developments. Basically, I had high hopes for last January and my new system that I used some information from ChatGPT to help me structure, like the para system, the projects, areas, research, and archive. And it was useful, and there was some other stuff like that I'd never heard of that was useful, but it just runs out of gas if you aren't here's the thing. We're not in a we just don't live in a society that's conducive to that kind of project at all. So even if you have it set up pretty good, you need some external support to actually move it forward. It is and I had external support in a sense. I have friends to talk about this stuff with, but it's like you need sort of like an environmental support. You need like, I don't know, the word ergonomic comes to mind, like a like societal ergonomics toward like those kinds of goals. And we have the total opposite of that. I think our society's highly degrading and treats people without dignity and expects them to spend their lives doing tasks that lead to poorly lived lives. So that was the battle. And so here's the update. On New Year's Eve, I launched the show and I do 3 streams in a row, 3 nights in a row. And I'm feeling good, but at the same time I'm sick and I'm kind of just like, so I can only hold myself to so much because I do just kind of physically feel bad, and I'm trying to do prep for the streams, but I'm also kind of like just resting. And however, I'm not only just resting. Like I'm absolutely wasting time. And most of that time wasting, there's 2 types of time wasting that I can talk about, and I'll write that down so I don't forget the other one when I'm done with this one. So they are going on your phone type of stuff, which we're all familiar with. And the other one for me is like every time I look at the chat, I get really distracted, but thanks for saying that. Yeah, because lots of people, I think lots of people are having this this issue, and it makes sense. I mean, we'll over the course of this show, we will get like really deep into this, like psychologically, technologically, and everything. But for today, I'm just going to do kind of like a personal example of these things without getting too into the guts of our psyche and the sort of like extreme desires that come from weird hurt parts of ourselves to distract us or find something somewhere. And yeah, much more to come on that in future shows. Anyway, so these two types of things that hold me back are one is just straight up going on my phone and being like, I don't know, lately I've been looking up stuff related to YouTube, or I'll just like look at people's stories on Instagram or something. Like I'll waste time, or even just checking for notifications or something, because I turn notifications off. And if I am using my phone, which hopefully I'm just not most of the time, then sometimes I will just open several apps like over and over, just, or like, like in a loop. Like I'll open Telegram, I'll open Instagram, I'll open YouTube, whatever, to see if anything's new. And sometimes things are new. Usually they're not new. I'll watch the news, or not watch, but like I'll look at like Telegram channels for the news. And that can take a lot of time, but even that, it's like, if I'm not taking notes on the news, am I really paying attention to the news? Like I'm using it as a distraction. So fundamentally that is like, yeah, I'm using a phone as a distraction. And this other type of time wasting for me, I think of it as like freezing, where I'm just kind of like, I just feel paralyzed, and I just feel like I can't do the things that I want to do. And I also can't really think through why I can't. And this is the real, I don't know, because the phone, it's like, at the end of the day, that is a personal thing. Like you need to learn how to differentiate like what you really want to do with your time and what spending time on your phone looks like for you. And you kind of have to just say, I'm turning this off. I'm going to leave it off. And I'm going to experiment with leaving it off for a long time until I understand what that means to me, what it changes for me. And I'll say one extra little thing about this, because I think a lot of people think they will know what it's like to not use the internet for 2 days in a row. And because they think they know what it's like, they don't even try, or they're just kind of like, yeah, that's, like, I'll do that at some point. However, the mechanism by which um, I'm almost tempted to get out the whiteboard right now because there's kind of like an analogy I'm going to make, but not really an analogy, but a relation. And so, like, the way that you are thinking when you're imagining that you know what it's like to go 2 days without your phone, that's the precise thing that is going to change when you go 2 days without your phone. You are going to think differently. So, and this applies to a lot of different types of things. Say a more mundane example, like I have some dishes to wash over there. If I wash, like, say I don't do that tonight, or say I'm thinking about doing it. It's like, yeah, well, I'll do it later. But it actually feels good to go do the dishes. Like, it changes my mind when I go and do the dishes, and then I don't have, like, that work is done. It's actually over and it's not looming over me. Like, it changes my mind. Like, my mind before, when I'm kind of resolving to not do them today, I'll do them tomorrow. It's like that's not, it doesn't know. It's not omniscient. It's like tricking me. I wish it could be a little more omniscient, because it's not a matter of omniscience. It's just about knowing multiple things. But it's a frame of mind that is limited. It doesn't understand that when I go do the dishes, when I go do my chores, when I go have this phone call that I'm dreading, that it's actually not going to be that bad, and it's actually a good thing to do. Like, these frames that hold us back from doing those things are often hiding all of that from us. And yeah, same thing with the phone, because if you go a week without using the internet, you think differently. You are a different person in a sense. The frame changes. You have different thoughts. You like, you just literally have different thoughts. You get over the urges to check your phone, because over the course of the day, when you decide to go on your phone, that is all generated by thought. It is all like produced, and then you go and do the action. Like, it's sort of thought before it's action. Or if it's right next to you, maybe that blurs the line, and you know. So, but the point is that after a week of not using your phone, you actually, like, those urges subside. Those thoughts don't come to mind. And when those thoughts don't come to mind, guess what? Other thoughts come to mind. You start thinking about other things more vividly than you've thought about them in maybe years. So it actually, talk about brain fog, it's like you are fogging your brain. Like, even if you're just using the internet like once a day, like, I don't know. I mean, you can have controlled use of these tools, but do you really want to go the rest of your life without spending a week where you don't go on the internet? That seems crazy. Or, like, do you want to spend this year without 1 week where you don't go on the internet, or like 1 week where you don't go on your phone? That seems like it should be a noble goal. I think an even more, I don't know if it's noble, but like, another frequency to think about with respect to that is, like, do you want to spend, like, most weeks of the year? Do you want most weeks of this year to be weeks where you did not spend a single day off of your phone? So they're all weeks where you go on your phone every day. Or what if you could say to yourself at the end of this year, like, wow, I spent this year, like, every Sunday this year, I didn't go on my phone, or like every XYZ, like every 2 weeks, I went a day without even looking at the internet at all, like over 24 hours, like went to bed without it, woke up without it, went about my day. Because I kind of think those are the two hardest parts. I think it's very hard for people to go to sleep without checking. And it's hard for people to, it's hard for people to, oh, nice, cool. It's hard for people to, that's so funny. I imagined, my friends are watching this on their like home theater projector right now. And that is what that is, I didn't think you were actually doing this the other night, but I did imagine it. I had the joy of creating the image in my mind of you guys watching me on a projector, like a massive projector. So we just watched Barry Lyndon on it. Awesome movie. Anyway, I hope I didn't lose my train of thought too bad, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like I think people should be trying to set these limits on those sorts of things that get in our way. So this is kind of on the one side of the motivation issue. It's like try to change your frame of mind. If you are struggling with motivation and discipline and focusing on the things that you actually really think matter in your life, then try to cut out the things that might be fogging your brain up, that might actually be changing your mind into something that thinks those are not the most important things in the world. Because your phone, the way that dopamine operates with your brain and your phone, a significant, in terms of motivational capacity, a very significant part of your being thinks the phone is actually the most important thing in the world. And it's never going to unlearn that if it gets it every day, if it just gets it all the time. So yeah, that's kind of on the one side. And on the other side is this like freezing thing that I think is probably going to be a little more particular. However, I think people will understand what I'm talking about because even if you don't have like my particular psychosocial background that has formed my personality into having certain like anxiety responses, I think our society actually kind of disposes us to be anxious in similar ways at a mass scale. And I think this is kind of related to time and the experience of time and just the speed of using internet devices and being around cars and driving in cars and being around sound all the time, extreme amounts of stimulation, getting off of your body's rhythm, getting off of any natural rhythm, and being submerged in these like man-made rhythms that are dissonant and just very high frequency. So while I think a lot of this does have to do with just how I've learned to cope in my own life and how I shut down in certain ways or may stop myself from feeling certain things, I think probably more people than I might expect might understand some of this stuff. So hang on, I'm going to grab a note real quick. I just spotted this out of the corner of my eye earlier, but it was actually an attempt to write about this in the past. And I don't think I'll read it because it was just kind of a draft, and it was sort of a like personal, just making sense phase of writing. But maybe I will read it in a little bit. But yeah, there's just something I've noticed where I like, because the priorities are there for me. Like especially right now, it's like I want to work on the show. I want to prepare what I'm going to talk about for the show, relatively speaking, like at least kind of like subject matter wise. I'd like to do some free writing under the certain topics just to prime my brain at the very least. And I'd like to do readings related, and I'd like to find readings that may be applicable to being read aloud on the show. There's a lot of obvious work that I want to do. And yet it is difficult to focus on the tasks. And I've always been kind of a lethargic or lazy person. So they're like, when I wake up in the morning, I feel like it takes me a while to return to myself. I've also been a night person. Like I said, I've been staying up till 4 a.m. So it's as if this is how I used to conceive of it. It was like in college, I would think like, oh yeah, well, I wake up and then it just kind of takes me all day to become myself again. And then at night I feel a little more like myself, and I can do my homework at night. Like I can't really study all day. I have to do something else, but then at night I can study. And that would cause abnormal sleep patterns. And as I got older, I was like, well, why can't I feel like myself in the morning that would be that would be extremely convenient if I could just start the day with the priorities that I had when I went to bed instead of having to like rediscover them over and over. And it doesn't matter if I write them down. Like it takes a. I'm still figuring out how to orient myself in the morning in a way that makes me believe certain things are as important to me as I really do believe that they are. But in that foggy state, frozen state, it is it's just hard to parse. So one way I conceive of that now is related to this concept of desensitization and numbness, which is, I think there's a sort of callousness that I certainly develop living in our society with all of these, like the rhythms, as I was talking about earlier, and the anti-sociality of a lot of our institutions and the people that are brought up by these institutions. I find that that has sort of a numbing effect, sort of a hardening effect. It's sort of like it shuts you down. And that's why I think it kind of freezes my thought in a certain way. It's like I shut down some of my feelings. Like I don't feel my body as deeply as I normally could. I mean, that is the normal for me. So it's not like normal. I can't compare it to the norm, but as deeply as I could, and I would say should. Like I would like to feel a lot more like comfortable in my own skin and in my own world, but I feel like I kind of put on this type of specific armor that also freezes up my thoughts a little bit. And it's frustrating. I guess it's just frustrating because it takes I'm still just figuring out how to break out of it. If it's like, well, actually, so there are lots of ways to break out of it. And ultimately, I think it kind of comes down to this, like, I don't know if I want to call it a context widening, but just like it's like you start in this really like closed off, like closed aperture, like state where like very little light is coming in or something. Like there's just very like what is there to be excited about when that's who you are and that's how you're experiencing the world around you and within you. It's important because like this numbness, it is equally inward and outward. And I'm inclined to almost say in the middle with the body, but the body, I see it as pretty equivalent with my psychological states, but they get so separated by my mind that I'm inclined to refer to them as two separate things. Anyway, sorry. I feel like this is maybe the most rambly I've ever gotten on the show, but it's something I'm just still. It's something that's extremely relevant to my life because it's something I dealt with last night, where it's like I want to work on the show, but instead it's just like I just stay up till 4 a.m. not working on the show, and then I go to bed, and then I wake up too late to really do too much beforehand, and so. Yeah, so to get back to this context widening thing, it's like you need to like break. You just need to break open the constraints that are like reducing the light that comes into your being, like, and that can take form in many ways. It could be reading a book. Specifically, I like to transcribe a bunch of things that I find motivational or compelling into a specific notebook that I can read, and then it's all right there, and I can recite it. I can force myself to say it out loud in the morning, and then it's like, okay, yeah, my context is wider. I feel a little bit more like I know what I'm doing on the planet again. And but also exercise that actually moves and changes the reactions within your body through all levels of your body, and thus your mind as well. Exposure to different environments, socializing can go either way, because depending on how you are responding to a certain type of socializing, it could actually make you freeze up more or be more anxious. But yeah, so a lot of this is highly personal, but there's something I find helpful about just broadening that context, and also like doing exercise, doing yoga, that actually like chills me out. Because the other side of this that I didn't describe so much, I think the real core of this freezing thing is that I actually like feel it's I think I actually like feel bad in my body, and the numbness is about like ignoring that. So I think I've let myself like fall into a routine where I may like neglect prioritizing that my body feels good, whether it be through exercise or like massage or yoga or whatever, just through care and attention, really, because all of those things done without attention are done not to the fullest extent. They won't have the fullest effect on how you're feeling. I say a lot, but I think I'm really out of my depth now compared to some of the other talks. Well, the other thing that kind of helps me with that stuff too is this concept that I have to do X to want to do X. Like I have to exercise to want to exercise. This relates to like you think you know what it's like to get off the phone for a few days, but you don't until you do it. And then once you do it, you're like, wow, my brain feels so much more creative and healthier now that I'm not like frying it. So that's how I feel with exercise. It's how I feel with writing and work, because it's easy to let myself not write for a while, and every single time I write again, I'm like, this is so important to do. This is like the most important thing for me to do, because it helps me make sense. It helps me remember what I consider to be important work for myself. So I might mention a couple more things here, and then I was going to read one little thing from this book, Concentration and Meditation by Christmas Humphreys, which is a book very much about attention. Attention is the tool through which you concentrate and meditate. Great book. I've only read the beginning because I can barely do any of the exercises in the beginning. It's so hard. But the thing I was going to read from him just emphasizes how important our attention really is to our existence. Yeah. Well, so there's one more little note I had in here that I want to add nuance to something with, and it's I said it, there's a common delusion that you think you know what it will, or like, oh well, I guess this is the same thing I said, but I imagined it was something else, but so I'll change it. But yeah, there's a common delusion where you think you know what you want to do, and it's like, again, the version of you that is thinking that it's a certain frame of you. And if you can't get off the phone for some amount of time and experience other frames of yourself, you are always going to be kind of like stuck in this feedback loop of like, oh yeah, well, this is fine. Like I'll still go on my phone. It's not that bad. And it's easy to just get stuck in this one little area doing that instead of going off doing something you care more about. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad this is resonating. And like I said, I've like way more to say about this, but this is really on the fly. So there are like things I'm going to refine this into and turn into something a little more coherent. But yeah, I'll check out. I'll read the Christmas Humphreys thing. Can you see this? Not really. But yeah, his name is Christmas Humphreys. So this is from that book, but this is something that I copied out. And wow, I've written every time I look at my writing, it's crazy. I've written everything down. I just like can't refine it into anything. So, and then instead of reading it, I'll just I guess this is the real discipline issue I have that the show actually is kind of solving is instead of reading it, I'll just keep writing. So I just write, and it's not like I'm writing the same things over and over again, but I kind of am reinventing the wheel sometimes, where it's like, bro, you did this already. Yeah. So these were just like my notes that I wrote down from the first chapter of Concentration and Meditation by Christmas Humphreys. So some of these aren't even really complete sentences, but they are just little things I was taking from it. So I'll read them kind of one at a. I'll try to just kind of pause in between. It's not like an actual passage. All right. So he talks about creating the instrument before you can use it, and that instrument in this case is attention. So we're in a situation where our attention is really there's like a war on attention, because attention has been the technique has been discovered through which you can use attention to create to accumulate capital. So attention's being heavily exploited, and the fallout of that is that we actually are really losing our ability to focus on things. And so anyway, so and he wrote this book in, I think, the 1920s, 30s, 20s or 30s, and and that's a totally different environment than now. Like people had to create their attention, they had to hone it, they had to practice it. But we are like, our attention's like getting beat to death with a baseball bat 24/7, and it has been since we were born. So it's not even just a smartphone thing, it's been like a TV thing. It's been an issue for a long time. And so to bring the concept of strategy into this, if you have to create the instrument, that's your task. What are you going to do to try to create and strengthen the instrument, which is your attention? And via this instrument, you will be able to concentrate or meditate or create or focus. You'll be able to focus this instrument. You focus your attention on things. What are you going to do? You need to create an environment for yourself in which you're actually able to do that. You need to spend some serious time without a phone, some serious, like, I don't know, and you need to undergo certain training, certain exercises. You need to practice building this thing. So that's the first note. He says it will be difficult when you begin. You are working through lives of past karma, which, whether or not that is metaphysically true, I think it is a useful concept, because it is hard. It's helpful to conceive of why something is so difficult. And on one end, it helps to understand that we're just in like a psychological war zone. But on the other, it helps to have an existential understanding of like, this was never easy for anyone to do. And we just have a different card than different hand of cards than most people had. He talks about Buddha on the self-attentive man who is collected at all times and during all activities. And that is something I try to think about a lot, this idea of actually being collected and being present. He says, attend to the task at hand. Ask yourself why you are to do something or to think something. Act with intention. Decide to remember or not, and move on. And it's common in our society to think of something like ask yourself why you're going to do something, but it's very uncommon to think ask yourself why you're going to think something. But that is how it works. Like you can understand the mechanism through which your thoughts appear and disappear and change. And while we are plugged into this 24/7 mediascape, we are not able to, like, that capacity in you is being destroyed. It's being rapidly atrophied. It needs to be rebuilt basically from scratch for many people. He said, you have decided that this practice is important above all else. How can you not find time for it? And that's related to what I was talking about earlier. And this is maybe of all the things that I read in these early chapters that stuck with me the most. And I think about it the most because I do have a sense of what I think is the most important things for me to do. And I do pass it by every day, or I'll work toward it at least a little bit every day, I think. But I would like to devote my entire being to it. And that's where I need to develop my sense of attention further in order to be able to do that. All right. Well, on that note, he says you need to learn to want it. You need to learn to want to strengthen the mind. And learning is something that is done over time. It takes practice. It takes doing it in different environments. It takes failure. Behind will is desire. Contemplate this. Come to hone desire towards righteous ends. I think I'm just going to read through the rest without too much. Yes, observe the feed inside you, as our chat says. It's true, though. That is true. And yeah, forget about trying to understand the algorithm and why you're seeing things. Try to understand the internal. I refuse to call it an algorithm, but the internal process that brings you into being with everything else that you've got in you, anew at every moment. Yeah, I'll probably just read through the rest of these. Positivity is taking act. It's so hard not to comment on them. So maybe I am just going to keep commenting on them. It is what it is. I mean, they're good. So I'm not taking credit. They're just, he did a great job. Positivity, he defines as taking active looks at the thoughts that enter, and negativity he describes as a receptivity, being molded or occupied by that which enters. And that was helpful because in the context of this, when he first starts talking about positive and negative, I wasn't really following him. And that is a concept of positive and negative that I found useful for exploring the psyche and understanding like, because he describes when you're like doing these early meditative exercises, like, don't be too negative. Like, don't just let everything come in, and like, you need to have some active element that is also like deciding, taking an active look at the thought and letting it pass, or whatever you're doing with it. In the early stages, brevity of exercise is valuable. You wouldn't overwork a weak muscle, and our attention definitely is a weak muscle. Be physically fit, sleep well, eat well, work and rest. He describes the path as concentration, then lower meditation, then higher meditation, then contemplation. I'm just doing the concentration exercises, so couldn't tell you what happens beyond that. Says, attend to the daily rounds and keep this with you. That's another thing that actually helps me a lot, is the concept of the daily round, certain chores that I just have to do. So when I am stuck, when I am frozen, it helps to just have those things where it's like, well, I have to do this. Well, I know I have to do the dishes. I have to sweep. I have to price books, whatever it is. Like, it's not going to happen without me. There's a list of things that are not going to happen without me, and I'm the only one who's going to do them. And those are the things that when I'm just stuck or I'm on my phone, like, I might as well just do one of those, and then maybe it'll help me along the way, bring some fluidity. This is another good concept. That 30 minutes of meditation will not work with 23 and a half hours of chaos, intrusion, distraction, and co-opted will, clouded desire. That was my own addition, I guess. But yeah, that's I mean, we're in this. It's just an insane situation. I need to come up with some better describers for it, but just the speed and the overstimulation is insane. And it's the social, just like antisocial behavior. Like, it's not it's not outward, but just the fact that we are not operating together as a society or community at all, that is antisocial. That makes you feel bad when you just see people and you feel distant from them, even if they're like, I mean, you can say hi, maybe you have a nice conversation, but there's a distance between your lives. And it's like, we both live here. Like, we should be able to be united in some sort of scheme of our lives. And yet there's a disconnect, and that leads to discomfort. It just necessarily does. So, yeah, let's see. He talks about the need for strenuous and wearisome exercises to develop the power of complete one-pointedness of thought upon a subject. Also brings up that you can practice concentration anywhere, which is actually huge, because most people are like, I don't know, using your phone on the subway or something. It's like, you can practice concentration anywhere. This I'll bring back to my experience this past year, because like over a year ago, I was doing pretty well with these sorts of things. I would regularly time the things happening around me, or like exercises, whatever they would be, or like cooking. I would time it through like counting my exhales. I would just like count 10 exhales, and I knew that was like roughly 30 seconds. And like, I would just think like that. And instead of counting like reps of push-ups, you just count like till you do 10 exhales instead of 10 push-ups or something. And that is something I've like barely been able to do for almost a year now. Like, the number of times I've been able to count 10 exhales this past year has been way fewer than the year before. Like, I don't know. It's something I've been struggling with the whole time. Like, there's just something so much more nervous about me, or something that is like preventing me from being able to focus my attention in that way. Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't know that I got this from him, because this is something I think about a lot as well. He says, tame the body like an animal and don't fall for its desires. I find that a pretty helpful tip. I was working a job where they gave me a hotel room, and like I was there for a week, and they had a pool in this hotel, and the water was freezing. But I was like, man, I just need to do like a cold plunge or something, which is not something that feels good to me. I'm not like that guy. But I know that it's healthy for me. I know it's healthy for my brain specifically, and for like kind of unfreezing the disassociative mode that I wind up in. And so I did some exercise. I went down to the pool, and I was just like stuck at the side of the pool. And I was just like man, I was standing there for a long time. I would do push-ups, or no, I would do jumping jacks, and like get hot again. And then I'd like stand at the edge of the pool, and I'd just be like, I can't get in there. And, however, I had an epiphany that actually helped me jump in the pool all the subsequent days pretty much immediately, which was, I was like, I want this so bad. Like, I know that this is good for me. I know that it will literally make me like feel euphoric, like in my mind. Like, I'll feel creative in a way that just I don't typically experience. And I had done some cold showers recently, so I knew that was true for me, like that it just feels really good, and like changes what you're thinking. It just expands your mind a little bit. Sorry, keep bumping the mic. And yeah, so so I'm standing at the edge, and I'm like, so I want this so bad, but like what about me doesn't want me to do this? And I was like, oh, it's my body. Like, my body's just cold, and it knows it's going to be really cold. And I was just like, fuck my body. Like, I want, like, my soul wants to like jump in the water, swim to the other side, and get out. And I was like, okay, like that separation in that moment like completely solved the problem for me. And it's still hard to do that like now for other things, because I've tried to bring that to bear on other situations that are hard to get through. And it has its places. It's able to work in certain ways. And like Excuse me, sorry. It's I don't know. Yeah, so I don't, no moral, but useful tool, useful concept. Yeah, the tame the body like an animal, don't fall for its desires. So, and to that end, it really helps to try to analyze what it is that you actually want. Like, that is no small task, and it can be an enjoyable social task with other people, just like talking about that, thinking about it, like really trying to like hone in on like what do I want, and like what do I want to be doing like every day? What do I want to do with my life? How do I want to be spending my time with other people? If we live long enough, most of the people we're friends with are going to die. Like, we're all going to die. But like, we might even just see all these people die in our lives. It's like, I want to spend my time with my friends in a way that when they pass, I don't feel regret that I didn't spend more time with them, or that I didn't do certain things with them. Same thing with your parents and things. Anyone you could know of any age. Yeah, he says, don't be negative in the sense of receptivity. Make the mind positive towards all outside interference. Get receptive to higher influence from within. Or yet. Maybe it's not get, but be receptive to the higher influence from within. So I think that's nice, because sometimes it's nice to review this. I haven't read this in a while, but just this idea that like, because sometimes you think like, okay, I'm going to calm down. I'm just going to like let everything pass. But you don't really want to just be receptive and let it all influence you. Like, you do kind of want to filter certain things, or at least acknowledge certain things actively. Because if you're not doing the active element of that mental exercise, you're not strengthening the mental muscle that is a part of your attentive capacity. What else we got? Do not begin unless you mean to continue. Progress is upward. If progress seems to be slow, remember lives of wrong habits of thought must be surmounted. You can't learn too fast. And even if you don't look at that in a past lives karmic sense, that applies to just our own lives. Like, I've been so many people over the course of my life. Like, I've had different groups of friends. I've had different places I was waking up. I've had different things I was doing on a weekly basis. And like, there's those lives of wrong habits as well that you need to overcome. So even without the karmic thing in mind, it's true for all of us. Like, we're overcoming what led us to be what we are in this life, if not through, who knows, metaphysically. You can't learn too fast. Like food, it must be well digested. Even wasted smoke remains not traceless. I guess he's saying the trace is beneficial of the wasted smoke. Like, it's still, even to try it all and kind of to fail, it's like still affecting the process that procedurally is creating you over time. Nice. Someone in the chat says, the other day I forced myself out of bed by yelling, quote, the way we spend our days is the way we spend our lives, unquote. I think about that with respect to staying in touch with friends too, getting over humps. Yeah, absolutely. That is, it's so hard for me in the morning. I'm just like another, I'm like a sloth in the morning. Even like waking up for school as a kid, it was horrible. All right. What else? And the last little note here. As you find success, beware the separative effect of self-conceit, relative gulfs between sinners, good men, and man of attained knowledge. So that was me summarizing something he said. But the first part is just like, if you like suddenly have like more of an attentive capacity, like be humble about it and don't think you are suddenly a saint. Like he's saying the gulf between sinners and good men is like nothing like the gulf between good men and saints, if I recall correctly, or men of attained knowledge. That's I think what what he was going. Oh, nice. The person in the chat says it was actually more like more like 4 p.m. that they were getting out of bed. So respect. I understand. I feel you. All right. Well, I hate to say it, but like and subscribe if you have not liked the video or subscribed. Do that because I'm in this shit. I'm just Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 9 p.m. We're live. That's the plan, and I think I should be able to keep to it. I think it'll help to have the doing more than 2 days in a row. While I have my current procrastinatorial habits would be a little tricky. So hopefully I can eventually maybe do 5 days a week. If I can get my grind together for preparation and everything. But for now, yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to do Wednesday. Yeah, because it's a Monday, Tuesday, you get a preparation day. In case you're like, because it'll, I found doing the 3 weeks last week, it was like, it adds up when you're doing the 3 days in a row, because it's like, I mean, it's like procrastinating on studying for a test or something. It's like, you can pull it off, but you can't like do 4 tests in a row like that. You can just do 2. So I need 2, and then I need a day to recover, and then I can do 2 more. Maybe we can do some weekend ones if there's some reason to do that, but I like the idea of 4 days a week with a gap in the middle. Sounds good to me, basically. And yeah, let me sorry. But yeah, like I said, we can take our sword and shield down to the riverside, but we are in pure war territory. I just got this in the mail. I haven't read it yet. Someone in the chat read it and recommended it to me, but we are gonna study war. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions about anything I said. I would hang around for a minute, but otherwise, I mean, I'm happy with that stream, and there will be much more to say about the freezing concept and the executive dysfunction concept. I think that'll be kind of a recurring subject matter on the show, because I definitely experience a lot of it, and I think there's a societal element to that which is playing into it, which we'll get into. So yeah, but I'll give it one more minute here. Is the Pure War follow-up called, is that the title of the book, 15, or did they publish it, or what's the title of it? I should play you guys out with a song, but I've got well, yeah, either of the songs I just talked about. I mean, they're stuck in my head, but I haven't set up my OBS streaming software to share screens or text or audio yet. I'll try to do that soon. I think that might be, is that? No. Yeah, this is the old one. Okay, cool. Well, it's nice to have people watching the stream, but there's that's what I had prepared for today, and I'll work on getting something together tomorrow. So tomorrow at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. I'll see you here. Oh yeah, well, real quick, just I really appreciate. Well, I've gotten a lot of response that I appreciate, and please feel free to share your thoughts with me about how you think this is going, or if it's made you think about anything in particular, because I've gotten some feedback that was really nice to hear. And the other note is, if you know people who might be interested in this kind of thing, please send it to them. And I will be editing, a friend and I will be editing some shorter clips of this, like maybe some 4 or 5 minute breakdown clips, like summary of a certain concept. And also we might be making shorts, which I don't think is a contradiction. I think it actually would be really funny. So you can look out for that. But if you know people who might be interested in like specifically a live stream format, well, it's because, I mean, a lot of people, you send them an hour and a half video where some guy's just like rambling. That's not their thing. But that is some people's thing, obviously. So, all right. I appreciate everyone for watching.